As the movie starts, we see Josefina, a nun who is about to take her final vows. She is also in charge of a girls' hostel. One morning, while checking the girls' rooms, Josefina gets lost in thought. She has been away from men for a long time, but as a woman, she has desires too. Suddenly, she receives a call informing her that her father has passed away and that her nephew, who lived with him, is now alone. Josefina, who had dedicated her life to the church and was ready to sever ties with the outside world, is now burdened with a huge responsibility. She prays to God at night, asking for forgiveness and seeking guidance for her situation. She then looks at pictures of her nephew and spends the whole night thinking about him. The next morning, she leaves for her father's funeral. This is the first time she sees Alexander, who is now grown up. Alexander is deeply disturbed because he never received his mother's love, nor his father's. The one person who loved him the most, his grandfather, is now gone. He now has to live with a woman he barely knows. That night, Josefina returns to her father's house, where she spent her childhood. Memories flood back. She then approaches Alexander and says, "You haven't eaten anything since morning. I made tea and cookies for you. Please eat." Alexander refuses at first, but Josefina persuades him, saying, "We both have to live together now. Please don't make things harder for me." Hearing this, Alexander starts eating. Josefina then notices a severe wound on Alexander's foot. She cleans it and realizes that he hasn't bathed in days. He looks extremely unkempt. She puts him to bed. The next morning, Alice, a social security agent, visits Josefina. Alice tells her, "I'm worried about Alexander. If you can't take care of him, we can take him in and look after him." Josefina becomes emotional and replies, "That's not necessary. Alexander is my nephew, and he will stay with me in this house. You don't have to worry about him." She then goes to Alexander. He asks, "I saw Alice at the house today. What was she here for?" Josefina replies, "She was concerned about you and came to check on you." Alexander then asks, "So, will you send me with her?" Josefina says, "We will talk about this later." Then we see Josephine bathing Alexander with her hands. Now Josephine is very disturbed and cannot decide what to do. On one hand, she thinks about handing Alexander over to Alice and continuing her religious life, but on the other hand, she feels that it would not be right to do so as it would be unfair to Alexander. She spends the whole night in this dilemma. The next morning, we see that Alexander lies to Josephine, saying that he is going to a friend's house, and then he spends the whole day outside. When Josephine finds out about this, she gets angry and scolds him. That same night, we see Alexander coming into Josephine's bed to sleep. This is very strange for Josephine. She doesn't want Alexander to sleep with her, so she asks him to leave. Alexander tells her that he had a scary dream and cannot sleep in his own bed. Josephine tells him to drink a glass of water and go sleep in his own bed, as he cannot sleep there. After hearing this, Josephine reluctantly allows Alexander to sleep with her. Then we see Josephine praying very intensely to God. Josephine now realizes that she is becoming attracted to her nephew, so she prays with all her heart. She asks God for help, saying, "If you don't trust me and my nephew, give me a sign. What should I do?" Josephine is very distressed. She is caught in a difficult situation between religion, love, relationships, and attraction. On the same day, we see Josephine talking to Alexander when she notices his legs, which are getting very dirty. Josephine takes him to bathe. That same night, we see Josephine deep in thought. Today, when she was bathing Alexander and touching him, she had wrong thoughts in her mind. She is thinking about it, and we learn that whenever something wrong happens, or she makes a mistake, praying to God, she feels that today she made a mistake, thinking about her nephew Alexander inappropriately while bathing him. Then we see that Josephina has brought Alexander to the city for a tour. She also visits her church, where she meets other sisters and explains her situation. One of the sisters tells her that God is present everywhere and that she doesn't need to come here to pray. She says, "I know your father has passed away, and now you have the responsibility of a small child. God is everywhere. You can pray wherever you want." That night, we see Josephina. As she is about to leave, Alexander asks her, "Can you place your hand on my back until I fall asleep?" Josephina places her hand on his back, and Alexander falls asleep. However, unknowingly, Josephina also falls asleep next to him. In the morning, when Josephina wakes up, she finds herself sleeping next to Alexander. At this moment, her emotions start to awaken, and she feels an increasing attraction toward her nephew. She begins losing control over her feelings, and her physical desires start to take over. Then, Josephina receives a phone call. The person on the other end tells her that her sister came yesterday, but she was not present. This is Josephina's sister, Angelina, who is Alexander's mother. The caller informs her that Angelina will come again tomorrow. Upon hearing this, Josephina becomes very anxious. She immediately calls her lawyer and explains everything, asking, "Angelina is coming back. Can she take Alexander away from me?" The lawyer tells her, "If she is Alexander's mother, then you cannot do anything. She can take him away whenever she wants." This makes Josephina even more worried. She takes Alexander out out for shopping, buying him many things so that when his mother arrives, he will be more attached to Josefina rather than Angelina. Then we see that Angelina has arrived. She meets Josefina and asks about Alexander. Josefina tells her that he is at school. Angelina responds, "I have come here to meet my son and take him with me. I will keep him with me from now on." Josefina questions her, "Where were you all these days? Why didn't you think about your son before?" Angelina replies, "I was hospitalized. My health was in bad condition, so I couldn't come here." She then gives Josefina a card with her number on it and asks her to tell Alexander to call her. After that, she leaves. Later, when Alexander comes home, Josefina does not tell him anything about his mother. That night, while Alexander is sleeping, Josefina enters his room. She looks at him with longing eyes, and sits by his bed. The next morning, when a van arrives to take Alexander to his football match, Josefina does not wake him up, and the van leaves. This makes Alexander angry with Josefina, and he tells her, "Now I will take a taxi." Josefina tries to stop him, saying, "It's not safe for you to go alone in a taxi." Alexander replies, "I'm not a kid anymore. If you really care about me, then buy me a mobile phone so that I can stay in touch with you." Then he leaves. Josefina fears that Alexander might meet his mother and that she might take him away. Worried, she also reaches the location of his match. After the match, when they are returning home, Josefina gives Alexander a phone and says, "I bought this phone for you." And the next morning, we see that Alexander's mom finally arrives at his school and meets him. They spend time together, talk a lot, go for a walk, and have lunch. Alexander's mom tells him that she had come to his house and even left her number, but he never called. Alexander is unaware of this because Josefina never told him about it. Alexander has no intention of going with his mom because he has developed feelings for Josefina. When he gets home, he looks through his childhood pictures but doesn't find a single one with his mother. The realization that he was alone in those memories deeply hurts him. That night, we see Alexander at a party where he drinks excessively and can barely walk. His friends bring him home, and Josefina helps him sober up by giving him a bath. At that moment, the next morning, we see Josefina praying to God, asking for forgiveness for what happened the previous night. Meanwhile, Alexander starts packing his bags, preparing to leave. Josefina asks him where he is going, and he tells her that he can no longer stay in this house. This deeply upsets Josefina. She tries to stop him and tells him that she loves him, reminding him of how much she has cared for him. She begs him not to leave. However, Alexander is furious. He tells her that she lied to him. His mother had come for him and left her number, but Josefina never told him or let him call her. This hurts Josefina even more, but despite her pleas, Alexander storms out and leaves with his mother. Now, the situation is out of control. Alexander is angry but feels uneasy seeing his mother and her husband together. They check into a hotel, and Alexander asks them if they can have dinner together. However, his mother tells her husband to give Alexander some money so he can eat at the restaurant downstairs. When Alexander asks if they will eat together, his mother lies, saying she isn't hungry and doesn't need dinner. Alexander leaves for dinner, but when he returns, he sees that his mother and her husband have already eaten. As he enters the room, he finds his mother crying, saying, "I can't do this anymore. I will never go back to that house." Hearing this, Alexander is deeply disturbed by how his mother treats him. He realizes that he made a mistake. He should have stayed with Josefina. His mother doesn't truly care for him. She just brought him along without any real affection. Overwhelmed, Alexander rushes back to Josefina. Meanwhile, we see Josefina in a completely different state. She wears a revealing dress and enters a bar, where she drinks and starts talking to a man. She flirts with him, making him believe she is interested in a romantic encounter. The man takes her to his car. Alexander finds her and brings her to his house. Just like Josefina had once bathed Alexander to help him sober up, this time, Alexander places her in a bathtub and cleans her up, trying to bring her back to her senses. However, this is the last time he will ever do this for her. And this is why the movie is called The Last Bath.